Food records slash diaries are often 11 to 41% underreported.
It's called a BLT, bites, licks, and tastes. And these are the things that can easily take you out of that deficit without realizing.
If you're not losing weight in a caloric deficit, it's because you're not actually in a deficit.
There are graveyards full of people who wish they could trade spots with you.
Discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. Why am I not losing weight in a calorie deficit? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and most of all, Happy podcast. I'm your coach and host, Josh, here with
his co-host and co-coach, KG, and I'm in the house.
Thank you for being here with us today. We have an incredible episode planned for you as always, hoping to get you more motivated, more inspired. And I want to challenge you, especially through summer. I know a lot of people start to fall off. We've gotten some messages saying that people have been coming back to the podcast, feeling really inspired, finally getting after it, making some changes summer. So I do want to encourage you, make sure to continue tuning in, maybe listen to some old episodes and really keep that motivation at all-time high through the summer. But we have some really relevant, awesome questions planned for you today. And we're going to start it off with our primary question, which is, why am I not losing weight in a calorie deficit? And I've heard this over and over. I've heard this at barbecues, birthday parties. So many people will say, oh, this person's so fit, they're so healthy, they eat the best foods, they're in a deficit, they do so much exercise, and they just live a healthy lifestyle, but they can't lose weight. Like it's hormonal, or there's something going on, or there's something behind the scenes. What's your thoughts on this, or why is that? And the truth is, like, it's a matter of thermodynamics. If you burn enough calories, more than you're consuming, your body can't create a surplus of energy to cause you to put on fat or gain weight. This number will look different for everyone. And I think people really like clean, obvious numbers, because you'll look at your watch or your Fitbit and it'll say, okay, you burned 10,000 calories today because you're a hyper athlete, right? And you'll be like, that's so crazy. I burned 10,000 calories playing pickleball and going to the gym and going on a few walks, right? And it'll shoot that really high. You'll track your calories. You'll often underreport it. I actually had a stat in my thoughts that I'll include now. And that's that food records slash diaries are often 11 to 41% underreported. And it gets even worse, and that number gets even higher 24 hours after the fact. So a lot of people say, yeah, I track my food. They'll eat. They'll go a couple days, they'll backtrack a couple days. They'll try to guess what they had. They'll smudge the numbers, make them fit how they want. It's very easy for us, me and Kyle were just talking about this, to eat something, downplay how much of it we had, log a half portion, log a few tablespoons. It's natural human tendency. So we'll tend to overestimate how much we're burning, and we'll underestimate how much we're actually eating. So we'll often think like, I'm only eating 2,000 calories and I'm burning 10,000 calories. There's a gap of 8,000 and I haven't lost weight. Why is that? The reality is you just aren't losing weight. Something's wrong with that equation. Either you're not burning as much as you thought, you're consuming more than you thought. And yes, everyone is different. I have some clients who are 110-pound females who eat 3,000 calories. I have some clients that are 200-pound males that are incredibly sedentary, that don't move much, that have a lot of weight to lose, that are only eating like 2,200 calories. Like, it's very case specific to the individual, your lifestyle. But ultimately, if you are being honest and accurate, and whatever that threshold is, you will find that number and you will lose weight. And of course, there are some exceptions with hormones and whatnot, but as a rule of thumb, this will more so indicate the number. You might have to work harder to be in that deficit. Your body might prevent some of that fact. But all in all, there is a certain threshold, because once again, your body can't just manifest fat, calories, or energy if there's not enough coming in, if your body's burning more than it. So it's finding that threshold. And the honest reality is, if you're not losing weight in a caloric deficit, it's because you're not actually in a deficit, or you're in a deficit during the week and you're blowing that out over the weekend. And you're basically on this path of going downhill with your calories, shooting them back up to equilibrium, gaining some weight, being in a surplus, and then you're kind of leveling out your deficit and your surplus. So it's always one or the other. And like, this is the cold hard truth. It's never easy to hear, but a great thing you can do is really double down on finding the right amount of calories and being as hyper accurate as you can with your logging, and continuing to do that and adjusting that number until you see that scale go down. So I know Kyle's been having this really top of mind. He's been adding a lot of his clients on MyFitnessPal and helping a lot of them really get in the meat and potatoes of what they're eating, literally and figuratively. So what tips do you have for someone on top of this to log even more accurately?
Yeah, so this is where it gets so difficult. Like I'm going to start with the person who is logging, right? Because something I've got to say is there's two different types of people. There's the person who says, "Hey Kyle, hey Josh, I am not losing weight and I am eating healthy and I'm doing everything and I'm only eating chicken every day," right? Like I've actually heard this multiple times in conversation from random people at barbecues. And the first thing I'll say about this person before I get into the logger and the one who's struggling with that is that the average person who thinks they're doing everything great until they see what's going on, it's usually not the case. Like I would say to someone, "Hey, okay, so what do you eat?" We'd piece it together and then they end up actually being in a overall surplus, but we don't know that because they haven't logged and they're just like guessing everything. A lot of the things that they don't think about, they're actually just taking themselves out of that what they thought was a deficit. And so that's where I wanted to start with that one person, right? And I've had this conversation so often, but I want to spend a little bit more time on the person who's like, "You know what? I am using my Fitness Pal, I am using a tracker, I'm doing everything. Like, my calories are at 1600 and I know I should be losing weight." As Josh said, most people are just way too, like, I guess you get to say generous with their calories. And so that's where a few things I want to talk about that I've been working with my clients is, first of all, it's called a BLT: bites, licks, and tastes. And these are the things that can easily take you out of that deficit without realizing. And I've had conversations and I've talked, right now I'm having a coffee, right? There's, a little bit of lactose-free milk in there. That could easily be 50 plus calories, right? If you have a child and you test their food beforehand and you want to make sure like to eat up the scraps, someone brings in something to work and you have a little bite, like these things add up anywhere between 200 to 600 calories. And it depends on your situation, but this alone, most people don't think about because they just think, "Oh, it's just one almond. Oh, it's just one little, half of a bear paw." Like these things add up. And I see a lot of people making this mistake. The other thing is eyeballing portions. So, if you're not using a food scale or if you're not using a measuring cup, it's just a guess, right? And most people, like Josh said, they will start to give themselves, like, after the fact, when you log, you'll always give yourself that room to say, "Oh, it fits. I know it fits because, I logged afterwards." Same with eyeballing. Like a lot of times, if you know that you should only have the 1 cup of rice and like that's just what fits for your day, you'll say, "Oh yeah, it was 1 cup, no problem." Meanwhile, you had like 2 heavy overflowing cups, right? And you just end up giving yourself the benefit of the doubt. The other biggest thing I'd say, especially seeing some personal friends and people who are like trying to get to that next level, is just the inaccurate tracking while being out, right? Because most people have busy lives. A lot of people have, random things that they get at restaurants, and we really focus on flexible dieting. That's a big part of it. But you can't just really look at a sandwich and just say turkey sandwich, right? Like you have to be very specific. And then most people end up underreporting by anywhere between like 300 and 600 calories in a specific meal, not accounting for oils and butters. And when you think about like restaurants and all these places, they're trying to get you to come back. And so a lot of people they add a lot of stuff, which ends up taking you out of that deficit. So I always try to overlog. I always try to be as accurate as possible. I've actually put together a fast food survival guide to help you out as well. And so if you wanted to grab that, it's going to be the second link down below. There's going to give you a lot of different principles to be able to navigate, to be able to figure out what choices to make, how to log things. And it's a really in-depth guide that I put together that I think you'll like. But a lot of it truthfully comes down to just you're not doing it on purpose. Like when I talk to these people, they're not just like, haha, like I'm trying to, just underreport so I can sabotage myself. You're still a great person. Nobody's doing that. It's just the awareness side of things. Like you'll look at a thing of sweet potato fries and put sweet potato fries, 130 calories. You didn't put the Chipotle mayo in there, and you put like, that's only accounting for a couple fries and no oils. Like you didn't account for the entire thing. So this is where a lot of people just mess up. And, even just the simple things day to day that they're just forgetting. Like, you just think, "Oh, breakfast, you know what? Today's a good day. The peanut butter jar is calling my name." What do? You 2 hours later, like, "All right, I'm going to put it in there." You didn't put your peanut butter. There's 200 calories. And while I'm talking about peanut butter, that's another thing. Food scales, measuring cups, proper tablespoons, like weighing these things out is what will make the biggest difference. So I had to pop off because I'm so passionate about this. And this to me is why most people think they're going to make progress, but they're not actually making progress.
And a lot of it can be innocent as well. So we went out for lunch today. We had something more fun. We had some fried chicken and wedges, and obviously we're going to build a healthy day around that. And this was a one-time kind of fun thing, which is nice, and it's going to fit within the macros. I logged it all beforehand. I mapped out the calories. I made sure it worked within my day. It's very easy for me to say, okay, check, I did a perfect job, and forget about the 2 sauces I had. Both those sauces do have calories. I got like a spicy mayo and I got like a sweet and sour sauce. So I'm looking between 100 and 200 calories. And it's very easy throughout the day to forget to put that in and be like, okay, whatever. Like I tracked everything really well. My Starbucks coffee here is some lactose-free milk. It's not much. It's probably 10, 20, 30 calories. But it is something. And it's something you need to put in. Then like, let's say one of my son's, like even Monday, he gave me half of his chomp. He ate half and he's like, I don't want this. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll eat it. 50 calories, right? So on top of this analogy, those 2 sauces, the lactose-free milk, half a chomp for my son is 300 calories. It's a very measurable amount of calories that can create a change. So to summarize everything, like if you're not if a deficit isn't working for you, it's because you're not in a deficit. And we want to explain that behind the scenes a little bit too much. And it's not enough just to be like active and eat good food, because too much of anything can be bad for you. Like if you have too much of anything good, you can still overeat on healthy, good foods. It's going to be harder. And it's a net better decision. It's good fuel for your body, but you can still be in a surplus and you can still absolutely gain weight by eating too many good foods. So that's where it's good to take some self-accountability. So I'm going to be hyper accurate with my logging and really pop everything in there. Like literally when I say everything, I mean everything, every sauce, every bite, every lick, every taste. Now I've seen people log like Diet Coke and stuff. If it's 0 calories, you can let that one slide. That doesn't necessarily need to go in there. Or I think sometimes they're like, they have zero point 0.1 protein or something, right? So that perhaps you can let slide, but your veggies, your fruits, like just really be accurate. And what's nice about this is you get a very realistic view of where you're at. You understand your numbers, you understand what it takes for you to be in a deficit. It becomes very calculated and very controlled and very freeing, because instead of you just trying to eat perfectly healthy foods and starve yourself and all this stuff, like me and Kyle can be in a deficit and say, hey, I have some fried chicken today. We're going to enjoy it. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be really tasty, and I'm going to fit it within my day. I'm still going to succeed, and I'm still going to be on a good path on my weight loss journey. So amazing question here. Really happy to get in the weeds and answer this, because this is one we get all too often. And you might know someone who's kind of wondering why it's not working for them. So definitely recommend them this episode, recommend this podcast. And before we get in our quotes too, it really does mean a lot when people tell other people about the podcast, because it's awesome. And it's really great just to see people succeed and see change and find the podcast and the results that come. And a lot of it can be just because you tell someone about it, especially if you have other friends that want to become fitter, healthier, and happier. And obviously, as we get more listeners, that helps us as well, which is great to make more of an impact, which is absolutely phenomenal. Anyways, we'll jump into our quotes now, and we'll start with Kyle's quote.
Yeah, my quote today is, there are graveyards full of people who wish they could trade spots with you. And I just thought this was very powerful. I feel like every few weeks I just go into the, thoughts of gratitude and just like being here and whatever it is that you ever go through, just realizing that like there's some people who just literally beg to be in your exact situation, right? So if you're ever thinking like, yes, hard times do exist, but I think when you kind of put it into that perspective, that just like a lot of people would even just want to be here, really. Like the fact that we woke up, the fact that you're, turning on and listening to whatever device it is that you're listening to us on, like that's pretty cool. Like whatever gym you're going to today, and, if you're working out at home, that's awesome. Like, if you go on a walk, like people would be love to just go for a walk. And once again, not to ever compare your situation. I really try to avoid doing that day to day. But whenever I put myself into a scenario where I'm like, oh man, things are a little bit tough, and obviously never glossing over that, but just I'm like, man, I'm blessed. Like this is amazing. Like I got people listening to me. I'm helping some amazing clients, and I'm able to hit the gym and I'm feeling great. And I guess it always really puts it into perspective. Like I'm always working through stuff with clients where, one of them recently, they got really sick, and I was just like, I bet you every single time your future workouts now, you're going to be thinking, wow, I'm so glad to not be sick. Like, yes, leg day sucks. Yes, it's going to be a tough one, but remember 2 weeks ago when you said that, like you would do anything to be able to work out? Well, here we are. So just a great positive mindset shift. Obviously this is the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast. So I am always just trying to, think of these different things to help me move the needle and just think positively.
For my quote, we have, discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. And this is such a great quote. Like put this in the back of your mind, make this your wallpaper, whatever it can be, because I think you can relate back to this so much. Last night, I remember I was out of calories, I was kind of bored, I was a little bit later. And I'm like, I'd love something tasty right now. And I'm like, wait a second, I hit my calories. I really want to continue with this cut. I'm really excited to get down to this 215, 216. This goal is more important than me putting something tasty in my mouth right now. And in that moment, that's never an easy decision because you're like, oh, I want this. Or you see that yummy ice cream, or you can smell the McDonald's as you're driving by or something. In that moment, it's like, okay, I kind of want this. But what you actually want more is your goal, or thinking long term, or really learning to delay gratification. I think in general, most of success in life, and especially in fitness, is being able to delay that gratification. And I think in general, like with the gym, even for instance, a lot of the time you're like, I don't want to go there. I just want to sit around. I want to do this, or there's some other thing I want to do, or I don't feel like exerting myself and pushing myself. But when you do that, how good you're going to feel. Even in the morning when I wake up and you don't want to get up, you get on a walk, you do something difficult like that, you start just knocking out tasks. It's amazing the way the momentum carries. And I think in general, it's the same with avoiding things, like especially nighttime snacking. This has been something I've been helping my clients with a lot as of late, and especially with nighttime snacking, right? In that moment, you think you want it, but then you keep failing, and you wake up in the morning and you're like, I screwed up again yesterday. Like, what is wrong with me? And it's oftentimes like that one decision that decides, like, am I going to be locked in? And the same with tracking. It's like, am I going to track seriously? Am I going to track my sauces? Am I going to use a food scale? Am I going to be really aware of, like, hey, if one of my children gives me a piece of food, am I going to eat it or decide if I want to? Like, these are often the small things that are the difference makers between you seeing massive amounts of progress and you not seeing progress.
It's funny Josh brought that up because I saw reels like the other day and it was basically saying if after 7 p.m. didn't exist, I'd be 5% body fat. And it was just kind of like a funny meme, but everyone was just like, I relate. And, just kind of opening up about their stories and their situation. And it's so true. Like what Josh said about delayed gratification. I don't remember if I think it was Alex Hermosi at one point. It sticks with me like years ago. I remember him saying that is the single trait. If you were to say like one person were to have to be successful, it would be that. And even like when it comes to doing work, a lot of times like it's that option, like, okay, do I lay here and do nothing, or like am I going to do the thing that I is a little bit harder for me to do but I know I should be doing? And like every decision we make, it's that delaying that like kind of that dopamine hit that we want in the moment for like what we should be doing now. And it's hard, right? Like 7 p.m. hits, 8 p.m. hits, 9 p.m. hits. And I think ultimately what it comes down to is being able to set yourself up and put yourself in a scenario where you can succeed, right? If you're someone whose cupboard's full of Girl Guide cookies and, ice cream, like, Kawartha Dairy ice cream, like there's no way you're going to succeed. It is what it is. Like you've put yourself in that scenario. I know that if I do that, I'm going to fail. And I've put myself in that situation. And it got me thinking even recently about how when it comes to being in a deficit, it's really, hunger is a thing, but if we can put ourselves in scenarios where we don't show up to a barbecue, like I've never eaten a calorie ever and I want everything, or we go to a family thing and we're just like super ravenous. It's about thinking ahead, planning ahead, and making the right decisions. Like yesterday I was at the barber shop. It was funny. They had like food review videos on. And I was like, luckily I had a good meal beforehand. I was, not worried at all. Like I was totally fine. But, had I been in a situation where I was like starving and just like kind of doing all this stuff, like I probably would have wanted to go grab something right after. So I think it's really about planning ahead and just like making those right decisions in the moment and putting yourself in good scenarios and actually setting yourself up to succeed. That really makes a big difference.
And even thinking ahead, every day there's like that point where I'm like, oh, I could use another coffee. And I think, you know what? It's not worth it. I'll get a little jolt of energy. It's going to end up keeping me up. Because of that, I'm going to be a little sleep deprived the next day. I'm going to be more tired because of that. And it's hard to think that way because we often think like, what do I want here and now? I want something tasty right now. But I really think the more you can start to zoom out and think long term or create new habits too. Like if you notice you're in that really dangerous snacky mood or you're not feeling good or something, it's like instead of reaching for food or a false comfort like that, like just say, I'm going to go out on a walk. I'm going to go get some dopamine. I'm going to go do something different. And it's amazing how you can kind of reset those patterns and also how easily things can become habits, right? Like if you just start snacking every night at 8 p.m., you come to accept it and it just becomes a reality that you do over and over and over. And even with Kyle at the barbershop, even associations, like if he went and had something bad after because he saw that, next time he goes to the barbershop, he's going to have that same kind of thought in his brain. It's really interesting how it works. So I think the more you can analyze these things and create solutions and better patterns and better habits, the easier it can be for you to be consistent with it. And speaking of someone who's made better patterns, who's been absolutely killing it, who do we have for a client shout out this week?
Yeah, this week we actually have Yong, and I'm going to put up a bunch of his different tips. So you're going to have to see this. And it's also going to be on Instagram. But I asked him, I said, hey, what are some things that have helped you over the last 12 weeks and 90 days? Just lose weight, build muscle, all that great stuff. So he shared a lot of great advice. And we haven't done this in a bit, but I really feel like you can learn from someone. Like if you see what worked for him, then it's very, very likely it'll work for you, right? That's what I love about our program is it's like a lot of relatable people, a lot of, you got full-time work. He was traveling a couple weeks of our time together as well. So there was a bit of like maintenance here and there, and we had to adjust the calories and adjust the workouts. And it's all stuff that happens, right? And what I love about it is like, hey man, here's what's going on. Here's my situation. Cool. We work around it. And what's amazing is you can see the photos. He lost about 15 pounds, so like 7.5 kg in our 90 days. He's looking more muscular. He's looking fuller, but his abs are just absolutely popping. And he's just really happy with the progress. I got him on a dedicated routine. He hadn't been doing compounds for a while, so I brought back the compounds for him, gave him a nice awesome periodized safe protocol based off of him just introducing them back into his routine. The calories, he was actually eating quite a bit in comparison to the past deficits. Like Yong actually worked with me in the past where you'll also see his transformation here, which is amazing. He said, coach, and I've talked about him a few times. He's like, I got 90 days. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I've got a vacation. So his calories were quite lower quite a few years ago. Now we got him to a point where he's in a really, really good spot. And obviously the results speak for themselves. So if you are looking to get to the next level, you want accountability, you want someone by your side, first link down below, fill out an application to our website. I guarantee you, the greatest thing you will ever do for yourself, the only thing you're going to say is, man, I wish I started this sooner. I wish I reached out to Kyle and Josh to get the results that I deserve, because so many people put it off for months and months and years, and they say, they struggle, they go backwards, and they're like, all right, finally enough is enough. So the time is now. There's no better time to get started right now. With it being summer, we have some amazing deals taking place, and I cannot wait to help you out.
Yeah, shout out Yong. Go show some love on his transformation. He is looking absolutely jacked and lean. It's been great to see him pushing and thriving in the program and the amazing results that have taken place. But now we're going to go back to our mailbag where we answer your questions. And if you would like to submit a question, we actually have a link right now in the description. You'll see submit a question for Mailbox Monday, and that will take you right to where you can submit a question super easily. So if there's something on your mind or something you've been thinking of or something you want to ask, we would love to answer it. We love awesome questions, even if you think it's small or big or difficult. All different questions are welcome, because obviously that's what we love doing here. And now we're going to jump into our second question of the day. And the second question is, do you need to train to failure?
Yeah, and this is a great question. A lot of people ask it still in different ways, shapes, and forms. Like I know for quite a while, there was a huge focus on just going till failure. And like, if you don't go to failure, you're not seeing results, right? There was the Mike Meltzer principle for many, many years where he would do less sets and just like push till failure and just crush it, right? Ronnie Coleman, Arnold, like they all have these different principles. And I feel like a few years ago, like we've been doing this for a long time. I remember there was a point where things started to get a little bit, different, right? Where people would say, you know what? Don't push till failure. You want to leave a lot of reps left in the tank. You want to just like almost not challenge yourself. Like there was a lot of people preaching that type of stuff. And I think somewhere along the lines like of that, a lot of people started to just really just go into the gym and honestly not challenge themselves as much. And to me, it's so challenging to see progress in the gym when you're leaving 5, 10, 15 reps left in the tank. But when you're going to the point where you're close to failure, there's a lot of great things that can happen. A lot of stimulus can be provided. It's very easy to gain muscle. You end up burning more calories. You end up actually just really pushing, and you're able to gain more strength. And there's a lot of great benefits to that. But the truth is, you don't have to go to failure, right? And honestly, depending on the movement, I'd actually advise against it, especially if you're doing it in a sake where, as soon as you go into the gym, first exercise is bench press, you're going to failure. It makes it a lot more challenging for the rest of the workout to be able to still do the rest of the workout properly, right? If you're only going till failure. But on the other end, there's the school of thought and a lot of people who are just going through the motions. They're on their phone doing the abductor machine, and they're never going to see progress. So the best way to look at it, I would say on average, and the way that I even program is that you should be able to leave anywhere between 1 and 3 reps left in the tank for each exercise. And it obviously depends on the exercise, right? If it's a heavy barbell squat, we might leave 3 RIR and really still push yourself, but not push where where there could be injuries. If it's a tricep push down near the end of the workout, we might leave 1 rep left in the tank, or even if it's the last exercise, I might push till failure just because it feels great. But the person who's going in, they're challenging themselves. They know roughly where failure is. The high school bro who's just really trying to crush it, and thinking back to what I used to do 10 years ago, it's easy to see progress when I did that versus like what other people are doing now in terms of their intensity. So that's my answer. I hope that makes sense. And yeah, it's a very, very interesting school of thought.
Yeah, so to answer the question, you absolutely do not need to train to failure. I use it as a tool, and it's an awesome tool in your workout. If it's a very like finisher or a simple accessory movement, it's no problem. You can use it. I also like to use it to understand like how many reps in the tank do I have left. I'm doing 3 sets of 8 with 1 rep left in the tank, so RIR reps in reserve 1. Sometimes I'll be curious. I'll be like, let's see what I could do. And if I can end up doing 14 reps, it was actually like an RAR 6, right? Because I had 6 reps left in the tank, more than I thought. And that's where sometimes you need to go to failure to discover the appropriate weight you should be using. And some of my clients will send me a video and I'll be like, I think you have 8 left. Like, do as many reps as you can with even more weight, and they'll still end up doing more reps than they could. And that's where you can start to use as a tool to actually understand what weight you want to use. Because to Kyle's point, I think in general, like failure is awesome because you're going to achieve stimulus, you're going to achieve muscle breakdown, you're going to be able to develop. The problem is it becomes inefficient if you burn yourself out fully, especially on that first set. You're not going to be able to operate at normal volume, and you can actually gain a lot of strength at RIR 1, 2, or maybe even 3. That's where most of my work is done. The other problem with failure is that's where injuries can happen. So if I'm doing very heavy squats and I'm failing every single time, dumping 500 pounds is never the most fun or comfortable thing. Of course, you can do it safely. Of course, it can be a tool, but I couldn't tell you the last time I failed a squat because I program and work in RIRs where I know it'll be a grind, but I know I could leave 1 left. And this is actually an efficient way to still break down muscle, still build, but obviously not exhaust yourself. So I find a lot of newer people get really hyper excited about training to failure. And I do think it's good to learn to grind too. And if one workout you just feeling amazing, the pre-workout's kicking, you're with buddies, you want to test some maxes, like it can be something you do, but all in all, it's not sustainable for a long-term program for you to be consistently going to failure. And the last and final question for today is, how long should a workout be? So I think the simplest answer is as long as it takes. But if we're saying an optimal workout, I try not to be too obsessed on the time of it. I try to have a flow and a cadence. And I think one of the best things you can do is have an understanding of your general volume in terms of sets. This isn't always a perfect metric because I could do 10 sets of curls and that wouldn't even come close to adding up to 3 sets of squats in terms of fatigue, time, difficulty. But as a general rule of thumb, you can start to look at like how many, on average, how many sets am I doing in my workout? So if you're newer, you might be doing quite simply like 12. That'd be 4 exercises of 3 sets. If you're someone who's more experienced, and even for me, when I'm doing more accessory work, sometimes I'll do 20 sets, sometimes I'll do 25 sets. It really just depends. But in general, I think if I had to quantify an appropriate amount of time, I would say 45 to 90 minutes is like my golden zone. I think some people have a great ability to withstand volume. They have a lot of time. They've loved the gym and they don't mind being in there 2 hours. That is totally okay. For me, I've tried really pushing my volume. I ended up finding that I did a lot of junk volume. I wasn't able to push myself as much as I want. It fatigued my interest in the gym. And I find for me, I do best at the 75-minute mark because I can really push myself. I can bring a great intensity. I'm not overextending myself. And it still leaves me excited to lift the next day. So there's so many factors at play here and so much to consider. But if you're going in and you're in and out in 30 minutes, you're likely selling yourself short in terms of what you can do. Even an hour is a solid mark as well. And I think it's really also relevant to your goals, because if you have massive cardiovascular goals and you want to just do some lifting to support function, you could absolutely get away with lifting like 30 minutes 5 days a week, right? Like that's where with most things the answer truly is always it depends. Science has shown the more volume you can handle at a good intensity, obviously the more muscle you can put on, but you also need to be able to recover from that. And some people recover better, some people recover worse. So that's where there's so many considerations at play here. And like duration also doesn't encompass how long you're resting. It doesn't encompass how advanced you are. Is there a lot of learning going on? So you're doing a lot of warming up. So it's such a tough one, right? And that's where, for me, obviously, my clients, I give them the volume they need. We progressively aim to improve that and increase that as they want to put on more muscle. But in general, it'll kind of take the time it takes. I've had clients say, hey, like I have more time in the gym. I feel like I can handle more volume, and we can absolutely make that adjustment. I've had other clients that are like, I feel like I'm spending too much time there. It's not realistic for me, and I want to actually make sure I continue to show up. Can we adjust this? And of course, we can cut out some fluff. If you have very limited time, do you need to be doing bicep curls? Not necessarily. You're going to be getting a lot of bicep involvement from rows, from pull downs. It's going to be a great accessory movement. So that's where, like, unless your goal is to have massive biceps, you want to be more strategic. You don't want to be wasting time on more junky, basic volume kind of like really narrowed in hypertrophy movements. Instead, you want to be focusing on big compounds. Like if someone has very limited time, they're going to be doing big, meaty, hard workouts, right? Because they're going to be able to handle that. They only have a small amount of time. And I think people get the two confused, because if you have 30 minutes and Kyle goes in and does heavy squats and deadlifts, and I go in, I do adductor, abductor, assisted pull up, like his work is going to be way, way better than me. He's going to see way better results.
Yeah, and what I love about our 75-minute mark is we've tried a lot of things, believe me. Like we've done shorter, we've done definitely way longer. And I remember when I was like first in the gym, like you couldn't make me leave. Like you'd have to just tell me it's closing for me to leave. But now after doing it for a long time, it's really about what can we sustainably do, right? Like obviously having done it for so long, there's only like, I love the gym, but I don't want to be there all day, right? And so that 75-minute mark to me is perfect, right? It's like when I look down, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Yesterday I was there a bit longer, like probably 90-ish minutes. And, I was working out with a friend. I did like a longer warm up waiting and then just showing them some new exercises. And I definitely started to feel, I was like, man, I'm feeling a little antsy here. Like at the end, I was like, I kind of want to go, right? Because I'm just not used to it. And I really like anywhere between 60 and 75 minutes. But the real answer is it honestly depends. And this is where even Josh and myself, like we have absolutely mastered like every single workout scenario, because everyone is so different, right? Like, and even when I sit down and look at a client, it depends on like so many factors, like anywhere between 6 to 8 different factors, between the time frame, between the stuff you have access to. Like even you have to consider your warm-ups, right? And this is where it's so different, because someone could be in there and they say, hey, I'm there for 2 hours, but they do like tons of foam rolling and they're doing tons of cardio and like they're doing tons of abs. Like it's so different. And even with that, like you also want to make sure you're using your time wisely. Like honestly, workout structure is a very important thing, but I will say like you don't need to be doing a 25-minute stair stepper before, and you honestly shouldn't, but before like a leg day. Like to me, a good 5 minutes, on a bike, on a, incline walk, whatever, do like 1 or 2 mobility movements and like boom, you're good to go, right? But I see a lot of people who have the amount of time that they spend in the gym, it's kind of like their badge of honor. They're just like, well, like I know some dudes that are there like 3 hours, and it's very different. Like they say, hey, I'm there all day, and like they hit the sauna a ton, and they like shave, and then they just like will go hit the cold plunge. And so, I know that's not exactly how long a workout is, but like that's how long they're there for. And I just think it really has to make sense for you. And honestly, what Josh was saying about adjusting is I've spent so much time adjusting my clients' workouts, because if I give them a routine that I love, that's an hour 15, but they're like, dude, like it's my lunch break and I only have from here to here, I will make it work for you. I will spend time to make sure you're doing the right amount of volume, the right amount of exercises. I'll cut the glutes kickbacks that I love, but I'm going to probably just, not do, because I have you doing hip thrusts, because I have you doing Bulgarians, because I have you doing some heavy deadlifts. I'll make those adjustments. And then, it really depends, right? Because even some people who have kids that they have to attend to, and, they're just like, hey, I'm on, baby duty. I got to make this work. It just needs to fit your lifestyle. And if you can just show up consistently, that's really what's going to matter. So it's a fantastic question. Obviously, like I said, it depends, but it's definitely something to consider.
All right. We hope you learned something today. Thank you for spending some time with us. And if you enjoy this podcast, please share with a friend, submit a question, follow us on Instagram. We have even more value over there. Our Instagram is @ColossusFit, COLOSSUSFIT. We're always aiming to post additional value behind the scenes, all that great stuff. So come and join us over there. We look forward to connecting you, and we'll see you in the next episode. Peace out.